He spent 40 years saving lives as a surgeon, only to discover his own daughter was willing to destroy him for money. What he did next would send her to federal prison, and it all started with a hidden camera at the marina. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening from in the comments. The ink dried on the purchase agreement while I sat in the leather chair at Coastal Marine Yachts. 40 years of cardiothoracic surgery, $80,000 from my retirement account, and the Sea Ray Sundancer 320 was mine. White hull gleaming in Charleston Harbor sunlight, teak decking still smelling of factory finish, twin engines purring like promises of open water. The salesman, Marcus Webb, shook my hand with genuine warmth. "Dr. Thorne, she's a beauty. You've earned this." I'd earned it through midnight surgeries, through patients who walked out alive when statistics said they shouldn't, through 40 years of steady hands and steadier decisions. The boat represented more than leisure. It represented proof that I'd survived a career that killed most marriages and damaged most souls. Standing on the dock, I pulled out my phone. One call to make. Marga would want to know. My daughter, 38 years old, former prosecutor turned corporate attorney, always asking about my retirement plans. "Stay active, Dad. Find hobbies." This was better than hobbies. This was freedom. I pressed her contact photo, her professional headshot, sharp suit, sharper smile. "Dad." Her voice came through clipped, distracted, conference room acoustics in the background. "Marga, honey, I did it. Bought the boat. Sea Ray Sundancer 320. I'm looking at her right now in Charleston Harbor. Outer Banks next month, maybe the Bahamas by winter." Silence stretched across the line, not the good kind, the calculating kind. "How much did you spend?" Not congratulations, not excitement for her father's dream, just numbers. My chest tightened slightly. 180,000. It's a solid investment. I've been planning this since 180,000. She cut through my explanation like a scalpel through tissue. That's a significant amount of capital. You could have allocated those resources more strategically. I stood on the dock, the keys warming in my palm. Seagulls cried over. A family loaded a smaller boat, 3 slips over, children laughing. "I thought you'd be happy for me. This is something I've wanted since medical school." "I have to go." Dorian just walked in. "We'll discuss this later." The line went dead. Call duration 2 minutes 14. That's all my dream deserved. I climbed aboard, ran my hand along the helm, felt the quality of the leather captain's chair. The electronics glowed when I turned the key. Navigation system, depth finder, radar, everything I'd need for the journeys I'd mapped for years between surgery. The drive home took 35 minutes through Charleston traffic. I spent every minute trying to decode, allocated more strategically. By evening, I docked the boat at Waterfront Marina, slip 47. My name on the placard, Dr. Cornelius Thorne, owner. My house sat empty when I returned. 4 bedrooms, waterfront view, spaces my wife had filled before the aneurysm took her 6 years back. I made a sandwich, carried it to the study, spread nautical charts across my desk. Outer Banks routes, lined one chart, Caribbean passages marked another. My phone lay silent, no follow-up call, no text saying she was sorry for the cold reaction, that she was happy for me really, that Dorian had interrupted at a bad time. Nothing. The charts lay flat and colorful under the desk lamp, but enthusiasm had leaked away. Through the window, my house reflected back at me. One light in the kitchen, one in the study, an old surgeon and his expensive mistake. I folded the charts carefully, creasing them along original lines. Tomorrow would be better. Tomorrow, I'd provision the boat, maybe take her out for a shakedown cruise to Folly Beach. I had no idea tomorrow would be the day. Everything changed. Morning coffee tasted bitter. I couldn't tell if I'd used too much grounds or if yesterday's conversation still coated my tongue. 8:45 in the window-framed Charleston Harbor in perfect Carolina sunlight. Beautiful boat, beautiful waist. According to my daughter, I rinsed my cup, and that's when I heard the car, not the mail truck. Too early, not a delivery van. I moved to the front window and watched a black Range Rover pull against the curb. Dorian stepped out first. My son-in-law, 41 years old, real estate developer, moved with the confidence of someone who'd never heard the word no, and meant. Margot emerged from the passenger side, dressed for court in a navy suit. No phone call ahead, no courtesy of ask. The front door opened. I rarely locked it in my neighborhood, and they walked straight into my living room. Cornelius, not Dad, not how are you, just my first name, flat as a statement. We need to talk about the boat, Margot said, setting her briefcase on my coffee table like she was deposing a witness. I stood near the bookshelf, still holding my coffee mug. What about it? You're 66 years old, Dorian said, scanning my living room like he was appraising it. A boat that size is a liability at your age. Insurance, maintenance, docking fees. It's irresponsible. My hands tightened on the mug. Irresponsible? I'm a retired cardiothoracic surgeon. I think I can manage a boat. Can you? Margot pulled out her phone, tapped the screen. Because according to the marina, you haven't even taken a boating safety course. You could hurt yourself. You could hurt others. I have my captain's license from 30 years ago. I've been sailing since 30 years ago, Dorian interrupted, moving past me toward the kitchen. A lot changes in 30 years. Reflexes slow. Judgment deteriorates. Wait, did he just call me incompetent in my own house? I followed him to the kitchen. He was opening drawers, searching around what he wanted. My boat keys, right where I'd left them next to the coffee maker on a brass key ring with the Sea Ray logo. What are you doing? I reached for the keys, but he pulled them away. We found a buyer, Margot said from the doorway. Cash offer, $130,000 below what you paid, but given the circumstances, it's reasonable. The words hit like a myocardial infarction. You what? You can't sell my boat. We can, and we did. Dorian pocketed my key. Margot has power of attorney for your healthcare decisions, which extends to financial matters when your judgment is compromised. That's not how power of attorney works, and you know it, I said to Margot directly. Healthcare POA doesn't give you authority over my property. Her expression didn't change. Lawyer face, courtroom face. We'll discuss the legal details later. Right now the buyer is meeting us at the marina in 2 hours. The transaction is already arranged. You forged my signature. We're protecting you from yourself, Dorian said, heading toward the door. And honestly, $180,000 for a boat you'll use twice a year? That money should go towards securing your future. Assisted living facilities aren't cheap. Assisted living, as if I were already senile, already incompetent, already one step from a nursing home bed. Get out of my house. We're family, Margot said, and something in her voice, that lawyer's calculated tone, made my blood cold. This is what family does. We protect each other from bad decisions. They left. Down the walkway, into the Range Rover. The engine started smooth and expensive. I stood in my doorway, my arms still extended like I might somehow pull back time, pull back my keys, pull back the daughter I thought I knew. The Range Rover turned the corner, disappeared. I stood there another full minute before my legs remembered how to move. Then I walked to my study, opened the desk drawer where I kept important documents, and pulled out the second key set. The marina had given me 2. Always have a backup. 40 years of surgery had taught me that. Always prepare for complications. But I didn't just have spare keys. I had something better. 3 months ago, when I'd first started looking at boats, I'd installed a security camera system at my future marina slip. Small wireless, motion activated, the kind that uploaded directly to cloud storage. I'd done it because boats get vandalized, because theft happens, because a $180,000 investment deserved protection. I opened my laptop and logged into the security app. Slip 47, multiple cameras, crystal clear footage, time-stamped and dated. And there at 9:15 this morning, 45 minutes ago, was Dorian and Margot boarding my boat with someone else. A man in his 50s, carrying a briefcase, inspecting the hull, the cabin, the engines, the buyer. They were already showing my boat, already executing their sale, already spending my money in their minds. I downloaded the footage to 3 separate drives. Then I opened my contacts and scrolled to a name I hadn't called in 15 years. Detective Harlan Morse. Charleston PD. I'd saved his daughter's life during a triple bypass 7 years ago. He'd told me then, "Doc, you ever need anything, you call me, anything." I pressed call, "Dr. Thorne?" His voice carried surprise and warmth. "Been a long time, everything okay?" "Harlan, I need to report a crime in progress. Fraud, theft, and possibly forgery. And I have it all on camera." Silence. Then, "I'm listening." I spent the next 20 minutes explaining everything. The boat purchase, Margot's cold reaction, this morning's confrontation, the fake power of attorney claim, the keys being taken, the buyer at the marina. "They're selling it right now," I finished. "Meeting the buyer at Waterfront Marina, slip 47, in about 90 minutes. Do you have documentation, proof of ownership, purchase agreement, title certificate, registration, insurance policy, and security camera footage of them boarding my boat without permission this morning?" "I can send everything right now." "Send it. And Doc?" Harlan's voice hardened. "If they're forging documents to sell property they don't own, that's not just theft. That's wire fraud if money crosses state lines. That's federal." I sent the files while we were still on the phone. Heard him opening them, reviewing footage, reading documents. "This is solid," he said finally. "I'm calling this into our fraud division and notifying the FBI field office. If they complete this sale with forged documents, they're looking at serious charges." "What do I do?" "Nothing. Stay home. Let us handle it. We'll have plainclothes officers at the marina before they arrive. We'll document everything. The meeting, the exchange, the paperwork. If they go through with it, we'll have everything we need." I thanked him and ended the call. If this story reminded you of the injustices you've seen, follow the channel and turn on notifications, because wherever justice is delayed, a new revenge story begins. Then I sat at my desk, staring at the security footage frozen on my screen. Margot and Dorian, standing on my boat, pointing out features to the buyer, selling my dream like it was theirs to sell. 40 years I'd known my daughter, 40 years of birthday parties, graduations, helping her through law school. I'd paid her tuition. I'd been there when her mother died. I'd walked her down the aisle when she married Dorian. And now she was stealing from me. Not just stealing, doing it with legal precision, with forged documents, with the calculated cruelty of someone who knew exactly what they were doing. I pulled out my phone and opened my contacts again. Octavia Pemberton, criminal defense attorney, though I was hoping I wouldn't need her services for myself. "Octavia, it's Cornelius Thorne. I need advice about protecting my assets. My daughter is attempting to defraud me, and I want to make sure she can't access anything else while this plays out." Her response was immediate and professional. "Come to my office. Now, bring every financial document you have." The clock read. Margot and Dorian's buyer meeting was at 11 now. I grabbed my files and headed out. Time to play offense. Octavia Pemberton's office occupied the 3rd floor of a historic building on Broad Street. Exposed brick, tall windows, law books floor to ceiling. She gestured me to a leather chair and listened without interrupting while I explained everything. When I finished, she leaned back, fingers steepled. "Your daughter is a lawyer. She knows this is illegal, which means either she's desperate or she's convinced she can manipulate you into not pressing charges, or both, she agreed. "Let's make sure she can't touch anything else. Walk me through your assets." I pulled out the documents I'd brought. The house, paid off, worth approximately $880,000. Retirement accounts, $2.3 million. Life insurance, $500,000. Investment portfolio, another $1.1 million. The boat, obviously, $180,000. Beneficiary. I downloaded the footage to 3 separate drives. Then I opened my contacts and scrolled to a name I hadn't called in 15 years. Detective Harlan Morse, Charleston PD. I'd saved his daughter's life during a triple bypass 7 years ago. He'd told me then, "Doc, you ever need anything? You call me. Anything." I pressed call. "Dr. Thorne?" His voice carried surprise and warmth. "Been a long time. Everything okay?" "Harlan, I need to report a crime in progress. Fraud, theft, and possibly forgery. And I have it all on camera." Silence, then, "I'm listening." I spent the next 20 minutes explaining everything. The boat purchase, Margot's cold reaction, this morning's confrontation, the fake power of attorney claim, the keys being taken, the buyer at the marina. "They're selling it right now," I finished, meeting the buyer at Waterfront Marina, slip 47, in about 90 minutes. "Do you have documentation, proof of ownership, purchase agreement, title certificate, registration, insurance policy, and security camera footage of them boarding my boat without permission this morning?" "I can send everything right now." "I'd send it. And Doc?" Harlan's voice hardened. "If they're forging documents to sell property they don't own, that's not just theft. That's wire fraud if money crosses state lines. That's federal." I sent the files while we were still on the phone, heard him opening them, reviewing footage, reading documents. "This is solid," he said finally. "I'm calling this into our fraud division and notifying the FBI field office. If they complete this sale with forged documents, they're looking at serious charges." "What do I do?" "Nothing. Stay home. Let us handle it. We'll have plainclothes officers at the marina before they arrive. We'll document everything, the meeting, the exchange, the paperwork. If they go through with it, we'll have everything we need." I thanked him and ended the call. If this story reminded you of the injustices you've seen, follow the channel and turn on notifications, because wherever justice is delayed, a new revenge story begins. Then I sat at my desk, staring at the security footage frozen on my screen. Margot and Dorian standing on my boat, pointing out features to the buyer, selling my dream like it was theirs to sell. 40 years I'd known my daughter, 40 years of birthday parties, graduations, helping her through law school. I'd paid her tuition. I'd been there when her mother died. I'd walked her down the aisle when she married Dorian, and now she was stealing from me. Not just stealing, doing it with legal precision, with forged documents, with the calculated cruelty of someone who knew exactly what they were doing. I pulled out my phone and opened my contacts again. Octavia Pemberton, criminal defense attorney, though I was hoping I wouldn't need her services for myself. "Octavia, it's Cornelius Thorne. I need advice about protecting my ass. My daughter is attempting to defraud me, and I want to make sure she can't access anything else while this plays out." Her response was immediate and professional. "Come to my office. Now, bring every financial document you have." The clock read. Margot and Dorian's buyer meeting was at 11. I grabbed my files and headed out. Time to play offense. Octavia Pemberton's office occupied the 3rd floor of a historic building on Broad Street. Exposed brick, tall windows, law books floor to ceiling. She gestured me to a leather chair and listened without interrupting while I explained everything. When I finished, she leaned back, fingers steepled. "Your daughter is a lawyer. She knows this is elite, which means either she's desperate, or she's convinced she can manipulate you into not pressing charges, or both." "Or both," she agreed. "Let's make sure she can't touch anything else. Walk me through your assets." I pulled out the documents I'd brought. The house, paid off, worth approximately $8. Retirement accounts, $2.3 million. Life insurance, $500,000. Investment portfolio, another $1.1 million. The boat, obviously, 180,000 beneficiaries. Looks that way. The FBI is pulling records now. This is bigger than just you, Doc. You might have just exposed a major fraud operation. I sat in my car in a parking lot in Charleston, South Carolina, while my life split into before and after. The boat, I finally said. Can I have it back? It's still yours. We'll release it once we process the scene. Give it a few hours. I thanked him and ended the call. Then I just sat there. 40 years of saving lives, and my own daughter had been willing to destroy me for $150,000. Not even the full value, $30,000 less than I'd paid. She'd been willing to commit a federal crime for a discounted theft. My phone buzzed, text from Margot. Dad, please, call me. This is all a misunderstanding. Please. I deleted it. Another text from Dorian. You're making a huge mistake. We were trying to help you. This will destroy the family. I blocked his number. The phone stayed silent after that. I started the car and drove to Waterfront Marina. When I arrived, the scene was mostly clear. One FBI agent remained. A woman in her 40s with a credentials badge that read Special Agent Teresa Vance. Dr. Thorne? She approached with professional courtesy. I'm going to need a formal statement from you. Can you come to the field office tomorrow morning? Of course. What happens to my daughter? She's being processed now. Bail hearing will be tomorrow afternoon. Given the nature of the charges and her husband's apparent pattern of similar frauds, the prosecutor will argue for remand. Remand means no bail? Correct. Flight risk. Plus, she's an attorney who attempted to use her legal knowledge to commit fraud. The judge may decide she's too dangerous to release. I looked out at my boat, Slip 47. Gleaming white hull, still mine. Can I board her? Crime scene's been processed. She's all yours. I walked down the dock, my footsteps echoing on weathered wood, climbed aboard the Sea Ray, stood at the helm, looked out at Charleston Harbor. My phone buzzed one more time. Text from Margot. You're really going to let them arrest your own daughter? What kind of father does that? I typed my response slowly, carefully. The kind whose daughter tried to steal $180,000 from him using forged documents. See you in court. Send. Then I turned off my phone completely, placed it in the cabin below, and stood alone on my boat in the fading afternoon light. Tomorrow, Margot would face a bail hearing. Tomorrow, federal prosecutors would build their case. Tomorrow, my daughter would begin to understand that stealing from your father has consequences. But tonight I was going to start the engines, take my boat out into Charleston Harbor, and watch the sunset from open water. The way I'd always planned, the way I'd earned, the way no one, not my daughter, not her husband, not anyone, could ever take from me again. The bail hearing was scheduled for 2 hours. I sat in the back row of the federal courthouse, watching my daughter enter in an orange jumpsuit. Her hands were cuffed. Her hair, usually perfect, hung limp around her face. She'd spent the night in federal detention. Margot's eyes found mine across the courtroom. For a moment, I saw the little girl who'd crawled into my lap after skinning her knee. Then her expression hardened into something else entirely. Hatred, maybe, or just the desperate calculation of someone realizing she'd made a catastrophic mistake. The prosecutor was a woman named Helena Reeves, mid-40s, with the sharp efficiency of someone who'd sent dozens of white-collar criminals to prison. She stood and addressed Judge Catherine Whitmore with clinical precision. Your Honor, the government opposes bail. Ms. Thorne Ashford is an attorney who used her legal knowledge to perpetrate fraud against her own father. She forged power of attorney documents, orchestrated the sale of property she didn't own, and attempted to collect $150,000 through fraudulent means. Judge Whitmore, a black woman in her late 50s with reading glasses perched on her nose, reviewed the file without expression. Furthermore, Reeves continued, Evidence suggests Miss Thorne Ashford's husband has been conducting similar frauds against multiple victims. We believe she had knowledge of these crimes and may have provided legal consultation to facilitate them. That got Margot's attention. Her head snapped toward Dorian, who sat in the gallery 3 rows ahead of me. His face had gone pale. Margot's attorney, a public defender named Marcus Chen, who looked fresh out of law school, stood shakily. Your Honor, my client has no prior criminal record. She's a respected attorney in this community. She has strong ties to... She's a lawyer who committed fraud. Judge Whitmore interrupted. That's not a point in her favor, Counselor. That's an aggravating factor. Your Honor, if I may, Chen tried again. This was a family dispute that escalated. My client believed she was acting in her father's best interests by forging documents and stealing his property. Judge Whitmore's eyebrows rose. That's an interesting definition of best interests. I watched Margot sink lower in her chair. What would you do at this point? Write it in the comments. Your thoughts are as important as the story itself. Bail is denied, Judge Whitmore announced. Thorne Ashford will remain in federal custody pending trial. Given the nature of the charges and her legal expertise, the court finds she presents both a flight risk and a danger to the community. The gavel struck. Margot's head dropped. Her shoulders shook, crying or rage. I couldn't tell. The marshals approached to lead her away. As they guided her past my row, she stopped, turned toward me. You did this, she said, her voice breaking. Your own daughter. You could have just given us the money. Instead, you're destroying my life. The marshal pulled her forward, but her words hung in the air. You could have just given us the money. Not I'm sorry. Not I made a mistake. Just accusation. Just entitlement. Just the belief that my money was somehow already hers, and my refusal to surrender it was the real crime. I stood and walked out of the courthouse without looking back. The afternoon sun felt harsh after the air-conditioned courtroom. I sat in my car for several minutes, hands on the steering wheel, not starting the engine. My phone, powered back on this morning, showed 47 missed calls, most from numbers I didn't recognize, 3 from Dorian. I listened to one of his voicemails, curious what he'd say now that his fraud operation was exposed. His voice came through, strained, desperate. Cornelius, we need to talk, man to man. This has gotten out of hand. Margot didn't know anything about my other business dealings. She was just trying to help you. You can still fix this. Just tell the prosecutor it was a misunderstanding. Tell them you gave us permission to handle the boat sale. Please, she's your daughter. I deleted. The next voicemail was different. A voice I didn't recognize. Female, professional. Dr. Thorne, this is Special Agent Vance from the FBI. We'd like to meet with you regarding your son-in-law's activities. We've identified 4 additional victims of similar boat theft schemes. Your testimony could be crucial to building our case. Please call me at... I saved that one. The drive home took 40 minutes. When I arrived, a silver Mercedes was parked in my driveway. A woman in her 60s stood beside it, arms crossed, her face tight with anger. Dorian's mother, Patricia Ashford. I'd met her twice, once at the wedding, once at a Christmas dinner 3 years ago. She marched toward me as I stepped out of my car. You should be ashamed of yourself. I closed my car door, met her eyes. Mrs. Ashford? Don't Mrs. Ashford me. You had your own daughter arrested, your own flesh and blood, over money, over theft. I corrected. She forged documents and attempted to steal 100. She was trying to help you. Dorian explained everything. You're too old to manage a boat safely. She was protecting you from yourself. The assisted living narrative again, the incompetent story. They'd coordinated this defense well. Miss Ashford, your son has been stealing and selling boats that don't belong to him for at least 2 years. The FBI has identified 4 other victims. This isn't about helping anyone. This is about fraud. Her face went white, then red. That's a lie. Dorian would never. The FBI has documentation, bank records, multiple victims. Your son is going to prison and your daughter-in-law was his accomplice. You vindictive old man, she spat. You've destroyed this family. I hope you're happy living alone with your precious boat while your daughter rots in jail. She got back in her Mercedes and drove away, tires squealing slightly on the turn. I stood in my driveway watching her disappear down the street. The sun was beginning to set, painting Charleston Harbor in shades of orange and gold. My phone rang. Special Agent Vance. Thorne, thank you for calling back. Can you come to the field office tomorrow morning? We'd like to go through your son-in-law's pattern of operations. Of course. What time? 9 a.m. And doctor, we're going to need you to testify before a grand jury. This case is bigger than we initially thought. The FBI field office was in a nondescript building on Meeting Street. Special Agent Vance met me in a conference room with another agent, a younger man named Scott Delgado. They spread photographs across the table. Boats, different makes, different models, all expensive. Beside each photo was a document, forged power of attorney, fake bill of sale, fraudulent registration. These are the 4 confirmed victims we've identified so far, Vance said. All men over 60, all recently retired, all with substantial assets. Dorian would befriend them, gain their trust, then manufacture legal documents to sell their boats without permission. I studied the photographs, a Bayliner, a Boston whaler, 2 other Sea Rays, combined value probably over $600,000. How did he choose his victims? Marina records, Delgado said. He worked as a real estate developer, but had connections at several marinas through property deals. He'd identify recent boat buyers, particularly elderly single men, then cultivate relationships. In 2 cases, he married into families with aging fathers. Wait, he's done this before Margot? Vance nodded grimly. Married a woman in Savannah 4 years ago. Her father owned a 45-foot yacht. 6 months after the wedding, the yacht was sold without the father's knowledge. By the time the father realized what happened, Dorian had divorced his daughter and disappeared with the money. My stomach turned. Does Margot know this? We're not certain, but given her legal background, it's hard to believe she didn't conduct due diligence before marrying him. I thought about their wedding 3 years ago. Margot had been so happy, or had she? I tried to remember details. The ceremony had been rushed, only 4 months from engagement to wedding. Dorian had been charming, attentive, successful. I'd been pleased my daughter had found someone stable after her mother's death. You think she married me to get access to my assets? I said slowly. We think Dorian targeted her because of your assets, Vance correct. Whether she was complicit from the beginning or he manipulated her over time, that's what we're trying to determine. Delgado pulled out another document. We found this in their home computer, financial planning spreadsheet. It lists your assets with remarkable accuracy: house value, retirement accounts, investment portfolio, life insurance. Total estate value estimated at $4.2 million. He turned the laptop toward me. The spreadsheet was detailed, professional, updated monthly for the past 2 years. Each asset category had a column labeled liquidation timeline and target acquisition date. My house, liquidation timeline upon death, target acquisition 2024. My retirement accounts, liquidation timeline, power of attorney, target acquisition. The boat, liquidation timeline immediate, target acquisition August 2024. This month, they'd been planning this for 2 years. I said quiet. At least, Vance agreed. And the boat purchase probably accelerated their timeline. $180,000 in cash that could be converted immediately rather than waiting for estate settlement. I stared at the spreadsheet. 2 years of calculations. 2 years of planning how to steal from me. 2 years of Margot asking about my health, my retirement plans, my estate preparation, not because she cared, because she was conducting reconnaissance. The grand jury hearing is next Wednesday, Vance said. We'll need you to testify about the timeline when you purchased the boat, how they took your keys, the forged power of attorney, everything. Your testimony will establish the fraud pattern. What about Margot? Does she talk to you? She's refused to cooperate. Her attorney advised her to remain silent, which is her right. But her silence makes it harder to separate her culpability from Dorian's. Delgado leaned forward. Dr. Thorne, I have to ask, given everything we've shown you, how do you feel about your daughter facing 20 years in federal prison? How did I feel? I looked at the spreadsheet again. My life reduced to numbers, columns, acquisition targets. I feel like I don't know who she is anymore, I said finally. Maybe I never did. The grand jury testimony happened on a Wednesday morning. 23 citizens sat in a jury box while Helena Reeves walked me through the timeline. Purchase of the boat, Margot's reaction, the confrontation in my house, the forged power of attorney, the attempted sale. I testified for 90 minutes, answered every question clearly, clinically, the way I'd answered questions about surgical procedures for 4 decades. The grand jury deliberated for 30 minutes. Then they returned with their decision. True bill, formal indictment on charges of wire fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, and forgery. Margot and Dorian would face trial. The trial date was set for 6 months out. Helena Reeves called me that afternoon with the schedule. 6 months is actually fast for federal court, she explained. But given the clear evidence and the number of victims, the judge wants this resolved quickly. Subscribe and stay tuned so you don't miss any true revenge stories. Sometimes, even silence is the strongest form of revenge. What about Dorian? Is he cooperating? He tried to, offered to testify against Margot in exchange for reduced sentence, but his testimony isn't credible. He's already changed his story 3 times. The prosecutor declined his offer, so they're both going to trial, unless they take a plea deal. I'd estimate Margot is looking at 12-15 years if she pleads guilty, maybe 20 if she goes to trial and loses. 12 to 15 years. My daughter would be in her 50s when she got out. And Dorian, he has prior charges now from the Savannah case. The Georgia DA is reopening that investigation. He's looking at 25 to 30 years combined. I thanked her and ended the call. 6 months until trial. 6 months of legal proceedings, depositions, motions. 6 months of my daughter sitting in federal detention, finally understanding that her father wasn't the senile old man she'd calculated. I walked down to the marina that evening. My boat sat in slip 47, exactly where it belonged. I'd taken her out twice since the arrest. Short trips around Charleston Harbor, getting familiar with her handling, remembering the joy that had been stolen and reclaimed. I climbed aboard, started the engines, felt their steady rumble through the deck. The sun was setting, painting the harbor in colors that looked almost unreal. My phone rang, unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Dr. Thorne, a man's voice, unfamiliar, tentative. My name is Richard Holbrook. Agent Vance gave me your number. I'm one of the other victims of Dorian Ashford's fraud. Mr. Holbrook, how can I help you? I wanted to thank you for reporting it, for fighting back. I didn't. When he sold my boat 2 years ago, I let it go. I was embarrassed. Thought maybe I'd somehow given him permission and forgotten. Thought maybe I was getting senile like he said. The assisted living narrative. Dorian had used it on all of them. I'm glad the FBI found you, I said. They found 4 of us. There might be more. But you were the first one who fought back, who documented everything, who didn't just accept it. We talked for another 20 minutes. He'd been 68 when Dorian stole his. A retired accountant, wife passed away, children lived out of state, lonely, vulnerable, exactly Dorian's type. Are you going to testify? I asked. Yes. Agent Vance said they need all of us to establish the pattern. I'm flying to Charleston next month for my deposition. After we hung up, I sat in the captain's chair, looking out at the harbor. 4 victims, maybe more. All elderly men, all targeted, manipulated, stolen from, and I'd been next. Except I'd fought back. The next 5 months passed in a blur of legal proceedings, depositions, document review, prosecution meetings. 3 more victims were identified, 7 total, including me. Combined theft value exceeded $1.2 million. Dorian tried twice more to negotiate a plea deal. The prosecution declined both times. The evidence was too strong. They wanted a trial, wanted a conviction on record, wanted to send a message about elder fraud. Margot never contacted me, not once. No letters, no phone calls through attorneys, nothing, just silence. 3 weeks before trial, Helena Reeves called with an update. Margot's attorney approached us with a plea offer. She'll plead guilty to conspiracy to commit wire fraud in exchange for 8 years. No trial. Is that good? It's reasonable, saves the court time, gives her a chance at a shorter sentence with good behavior. She could be out in 6 years. And Dorian? Still fighting, still insisting he was just trying to help elderly people manage their assets. His trial proceeds as scheduled. Will Margot testify against him? No. Part of her plea agreement is that she doesn't have to testify. She's protecting him even now. I thought about that. 8 years in federal prison, and she was still protecting the man who'd targeted her father, who'd targeted multiple elderly men, who'd built a career on fraud and theft. What do you recommend? I asked. That's not my decision. The plea agreement requires victim approval. You're the primary victim. If you object, we can push forward to trial. I stood at my study window, looking out at Charleston Harbor. My boat sat at the marina, waiting for another journey. Tomorrow I was planning to sail to Beaufort, maybe down to Hilton Head. Accept the plea, I said. 8 years is enough. The plea hearing happened on a Tuesday morning. I sat in the same courtroom where Margot's bail had been denied 6 months early. She entered in prison clothes, thinner now, her face hollowed out. Judge Whitmore reviewed the plea agreement carefully. Ms. Thorne Ashford, do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're admitting to conspiring with your husband to defraud your father and others? Yes, Your Honor. Margot's voice was barely audible. Do you understand you're waiving your right to a trial? Yes, Your Honor. Do you understand you're facing 8 years in federal prison? A pause. Then yes, Your Honor. Judge Whitmore looked at her for a long moment. Do you have anything to say to your father before I accept this plea? Margot turned. For the first time in 6 months, she looked directly at me. I'm sorry, she said. I'm sorry for all of it. But her eyes were dry. Her voice was steady. It was the same tone she'd used in court for years. Professional, calculated, the words a lawyer says because they're strategically necessary, not because they're true. Judge Whitmore must have heard it too. Your apology would be more convincing if you'd offered it before getting caught. Plea accepted. 8 years federal prison, followed by 3 years supervised release. Marshals, please remand the defendant. They led her away. I walked out of the courthouse into bright Carolina sunshine. My phone buzzed. Text from Agent Vance. Dorian's trial starts next month. You'll need to testify again. Are you prepared? I typed back. I'll be there. Dorian's trial lasted 3 weeks. 7 victims testified. Bank records were presented. Forged documents were examined. Expert witnesses explained the fraud pattern. I testified on day 4. Helena Reeves walked me through everything again. The boat purchase, the confrontation, the stolen keys, the marina camera footage. Dorian's attorney, a high-priced defense lawyer named Winston Crawford, tried to paint me as a vindictive father who'd misunderstood his son-in-law's good intentions. Dr. Thorne, isn't it true that you've struggled with memory issues since retirement? No. Isn't it true that your daughter Margot expressed concerns about your cognitive decline? She expressed concerns. Those concerns were fabricated to justify theft. Isn't it possible that you gave permission for the boat sale and simply forgot? I'm a retired cardiothoracic surgeon. I performed over 3,000 surgeries. I documented every one. I don't forget important details, Mr. Crawford, and I didn't give permission to sell my boat. The jury deliberated for 4 hours, guilty on all counts. Dorian stood when the verdict was read, his face blank with shock. He genuinely believed he'd walk free. That charm and lawyer tricks would save him. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. Judge Whitmore showed no mercy. Mr. Ashford, you've conducted a systematic campaign of fraud targeting elderly victims. You've manipulated families, forged documents, and stolen over $1.2 million. This court sentences you to 25 years in federal prison, followed by 5 years supervised release. You will also pay restitution to all victims in the full amount of their losses. 25 years. Dorian would be 66 when he got out, the same age I was when he'd tried to steal my boat. I walked out of the courthouse for the final time. No more hearings, no more testimony, no more legal proceedings, just finished. My phone rang as I reached my car. Octavia Pemberton. Cornelius, I saw the verdict. How are you feeling? Tired, I admitted. Ready to be done with all of this. Then I have good news. All your asset protection documents are finalized. New will, new beneficiaries, living trust. Everything is locked down. Your daughter can't touch any of it, now or after you're gone. Thank you, Octavia. There's one more thing. Her tone shifted slightly. Margot's attorney contacted me. She wants to see you. Prison visit. Says she has things she needs to say. I sat in my car, engine off, looking at Charleston Harbor in the distance. Tell him no, I said finally. Whatever she needs to say, she had 40 years to say it. I'm done. That evening, I took my boat out alone, headed south toward Beaufort. No schedule, no destination, just open water and sunset, and the freedom I'd bought with $180,000, and then fought to keep. The Sea Ray handled beautifully. The engines purred. The electronics guided me safely through channels I'd studied for months. I thought about Margot in federal prison, 8 years ahead of her. Thought about Dorian, 25 years stretching out like a life sentence. Thought about the spreadsheet with my assets calculated, categorized, targeted for acquisition. Should I have felt something? Regret, sorrow. Instead, I felt relief. Relief that I'd fought back. Relief that I'd documented everything. Relief that I'd protected myself and 6 other elderly men from a predator who'd targeted vulnerability and trust. The sun set over the Atlantic, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple and gold. I dropped anchor in a quiet cove near Edisto Island, poured myself a bourbon, and sat on the deck listening to water lap against the hull. My phone buzzed. One final text. From a number I didn't recognize. Thorne, this is Richard Holrook. Just wanted to say I bought a boat. 32-foot Grady White. Taking her out this weekend. Thank you for showing me it was possible to fight back. Thank you for reminding me I'm not too old to live. I read it twice, then typed a response. Congratulations, fair winds and following seas. Then I turned off my phone completely, finished my bourbon, and looked up at stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. 40 years of surgery had taught me how to save lives. The past 6 months had taught me something different, how to protect my own. Tomorrow, I'd continue south. Maybe the Bahamas, maybe the Keys, wherever the charts led and the weather allowed. But tonight, I was exactly where I needed to be. Alone on my boat, in quiet water, with no one trying to steal my dream or my dignity or my hard-earned peace. I'd spent $180,000 on this boat. I'd spent 6 months fighting to keep it, and sitting here now, listening to the ocean, watching stars emerge, feeling the gentle rock of waves beneath me. I'd do it all again. Every dollar, every document, every testimony, worth it. All of it, worth it. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.